Hi, my name is Vincent Palafox and I work with the Big Sky County Water and Sewer District. In this presentation, I will be explaining how we unthaw water service lines when they freeze. In the beautiful summer, we do not have frozen water lines, and life is good. But in the winter, cold is not on our side. The result, of course, is frozen service lines. So, this is how we at Big Sky County Water and Sewer District approach the situation. Whether the ice blockage is 2 feet outside of the house or all the way at the main, the procedure is the same. You can also apply these techniques at the curb stop or at a meter pit. So before you even begin, you're going to want to make sure that you can access both the customer's curb stop and both mainline isolation valves needed to shut down service in case of an emergency. Before I begin with the procedure, I'm going to talk about some of the equipment we use. I think one of the most vital pieces of equipment that we use is a standard high temp, high pressure 1/8 inch hose with a jetting head. Most people in the industry use these hoses and jetting heads to clean sewer pipes and drains. They work really excellent for thawing water lines as well. We keep all of our equipment in a simple enclosed pull behind trailer. It doesn't take that big of a trailer to fit all the gear you're going to need. You're going to want to get a hotsy and a generator. Make sure that the generator can handle the power that your hotsy requires. One of the problems we ran into while running the hotsy off of the generator is that you need at least 30 amps to keep the hotsy running. We started off with just 20 using a standard 110 outlet and an adapter, and it didn't work. You can see from the burn end on the adapter there, it got hot enough to burn that. We started using the 30 amp socket on the generator and everything worked fine. We just had to build a little adapter out of a couple socket adapters and some wire, and we were good to go. One of the things you guys want to remember is that you're dealing with potable water, so make sure that we keep these lines as clean as possible. You want to keep a spray bottle with a strong bleach solution handy and a bunch of paper towels or rags or something to clean the line as you feed it into your customer's service line. I'd recommend having a couple hundred feet or a couple 100-foot lengths of 3/8 and 1/8 inch high pressure, high temp hose. You're going to also want a couple 100 feet of garden hose and 2-inch fire hose. That's mostly in case you need to access water from a fire hydrant, but you're also going to use it for the sump pump, the garden hose anyhow. And you'll want to get whatever adapters to go from the fire hydrant to the fire hose and from the fire hose to the garden hose. Hose reels are really nice to keep your hoses consolidated, but you're also going to want to have a roll of 3/8 and 1/8 inch high pressure, high temp hose that's not on a reel, just loose hose. You're also going to want a reducing coupler to couple the 3/8 inch hose to the 1/8 inch hose in case you need to travel more than 100 feet. I'll get into that a little bit more later. You're also going to want a small sump pump with a 50-gallon drum cut with the top cut off or something similar. I don't think a 5-gallon bucket's going to be big enough for you, but you might be able to use like a 20-gallon tote or something of the sort. We use a 1/3 horsepower Liberty submersible pump with a float on it. I definitely recommend the float. It makes life easy. So then you're going to want to get some pipe insulation tubing, the kind with the slit right down the middle, and it's pretty easy to put on and remove. What you'll use the pipe insulation for is to sleeve the 3/8 inch hose, and you're going to want to sleeve it wherever you're in contact with the customer's floor, because most of that high pressure hose does scuff while it's vibrating. So keep the damage to a minimum, throw the insulation on, and you can use Visqueen or anything else. So just be aware that most of the 3/8 inch high pressure hose does scuff. It'll help keep damage to a minimum. Now you're going to want to take the time to build a flow bypass. I usually use a 1-inch pipe and some fittings, but you can pretty much use any size you want. I wouldn't recommend going any smaller than 1 inch. So you're going to need a few straight pieces of pipe, some couplers, a T, and a 90. And if you want to get real fancy and keep the spray back and water damage to a minimum when you do thaw the water out, you can take a reducing bushing to reduce the opening size of the entry point even further. I used a 3/4 inch to 1/4 inch reducer, and then I drilled out the threads of the 1/4 inch opening to reduce friction and keep the hose from getting caught up there. If you do decide to drill out the bushing, you want to make sure you use a pipe wrench or a vise to keep that thing from spinning out of control when you're drilling it. Once your bypass is assembled, you're pretty much ready to go. You want to make sure that you have the correct adapter to go from your bypass to the customer service connection in the house or at the meter pit or curb stop or wherever you're connecting to. So you can throw everything in your trailer, get set up at your customer's house. You'll get your generator running, supply water to the hot seat. You're going to want to run a 3/8 inch high pressure line through the house to the connection point or entry point. Then you'll want to get your 50-gallon drum and your bypass set up. Then you'll want to hook up a garden hose to your sump pump and run your garden hose outside somewhere where it can not make a mess, hopefully. So the jet heads have 4 to 6 tiny holes. Eventually they're going to get clogged up. So usually every time before we start, just take a little welding tip cleaning tool and you can clean those jetting heads pretty easily. So now you're going to want to disconnect the customer service line, leave that ball valve in place, and just hook your bypass straight to the ball valve. If the customer doesn't have a ball valve, you might want to install one. It really makes things easy. If you don't want to install a ball valve, then at least get somebody outside on the curb stop and probably some sort of communication radio or walkie-talkie or something for quick shut-off once that water does get thawed. You don't have a lot of time to react. Now you're going to want to take the 1/8 inch high pressure hose with a clean jetting head on it, and you can feed it into the line until you reach resistance, usually somewhere around 50 feet, or you might hit ice blockage first. So whichever comes first, at this point you'll probably want to turn the flow on to the high pressure hose and start shoving your line through. You're going to be feeding water through that hose and coming back at you through the bypass, but your sump pump should keep up with all of the flow that's handling and should keep up with all of the flow once you do have a water line turned on. So once you reach the ice, it's a pretty slow go. You just kind of slowly push it through, but as long as you're making forward progress, you are making progress. If for some reason you stop making progress and you're no longer traveling through the pipe at all, pull your hose out and check your heads. They might be clogged. So once you finally do break through the ice, the water's going to come rushing at you naturally. But with the bypass you just made, it will hopefully all flow through straight into your 50-gallon drum. And the sump pump will keep up long enough for you to get your line cleared and shut off the ball valve and the flow to the hot seat. If for some reason you're not able to get your ball valve shut off, then your next step would be trying to shut the curb stop off. If you're not able to get the curb stop shut off, you'll want to get your main isolation valve shut off. Once you get the flow to the water shut off to the house, you can turn your hot seat back on and shove the high pressure line back in to wiggle it loose from whatever it is caught up on, hopefully. Probably the curb stop or some other sort of fitting. I guess in the event that you need to go more than 100 feet, that's where the 2 loose rolls of 3/8 and 1/8 inch and the reducing coupler come into play. You just shove that 3/8 inch line in as soon as the 1/8 inch line is all the way in, all 100 feet of it, and you should be able to continue to push quite a ways further than 100 feet. I have tried connecting 2 1/8 inch lines together, 200-foot rolls, and I was not able to make it more than 100 feet. But with the 3/8 inch line hooked directly to the 1/8 inch line, I was able to go more than 100 feet. I'm not sure exactly how far you can go using this method, but I think we've made it close to 120 feet. I imagine you can go quite a bit farther. So this pretty much covers the basics of line thawing and how we achieved some pretty good results. If you have any questions or want to know more about it, just get a hold of us. Our contact information is on the website at wsd363.com. Thanks, guys, and good luck.